So you got your fancy X700 series and you have all these cool hydraulic hookups on it. However, you want to use something on the back end of the machine that needs a hydraulic hookup, and you don't have anything except what's up here. So what do? Deere doesn't make a kit. So you order what's in this box. In this box is the auxiliary hydraulics. I think this one's the deluxe rear hydraulic hookup. Now, I want to be clear, this is not an extra remote. This is not going to be a third function. This is just an addition to essentially make the hookups that are up here. You'll have two of them at the back, so you can run one hydraulic set at the rear. In my case, I have a hydraulic top link coming, so I'll be using it for that. And then in the future, I plan on building some stuff that may or may not end up using hydraulics. We'll see. But there's not a lot out there about this kit, so I figured I would show it and get it put on here. Let's get into it. A quick reminder before we get started, I recently started a Facebook page for Josh's Green Garage, so I encourage you, go on there, like it. You can see anything that I may be getting into. I'll put some sneak peeks on there. I also have links to my eBay page on there where I'm selling decals. Diesel decals, V-twin decals for pretty much any of the John Deere mowers. I have a V-twin engine. Some other ones for the 700 series. I also have plans for a couple of my projects, but it's a good little page, trying to get that going. I may be building some of my weight brackets for the 200 series, so if you're interested in something like that, I'm going to be posting those on eBay, and when I do post them, I'll update it on there. It's going to be a first come first serve type thing whenever I do get those built. There's no set date or time that I'm going to build them though. But yeah, just want to throw that out there, make sure everybody's aware. Now, I will admit, I already had opened this box. I had ordered this, when I ordered the tractor, essentially. I got it way before I ever even got the tractor. Once the tractor finally came in, I decided it was a good time to then check to make sure that I had received all the parts. Turned out I was missing a couple, but I contacted, auxiliary hydraulics and ended up getting the parts that I needed. They were easy to work with. It was no problem at all. They shipped them out, so we're good to go. A couple parts here are not as they would look if you ordered this kit, because I did order a little extra that I started to put on to make sure everything was going to work out. So some stuff's disassembled. So in the kit, you get a hose kit. You get this bracket that is going to have your hydraulic outlets on it. And this is the extra I was talking about. This is a quarter turn lockout valve. That way, if I have the hydraulic top link on there in the winter time and I'm using it just to hold the weight bracket, I can lock that out just to make sure I don't have any excess movement of that top link. You get your bag of hardware here. This has fittings, some bolts for the brackets. And these brackets are what I was missing, but I got them shipped out to me, so happy about that. And I gotta say, everything in this kit seems really good quality. All the fittings look really nice. The quick connects look nice. This bracket, is decently thick steel. All the hardware and stuff is actual John Deere hardware, so that's kind of nice. Like your outlet covers, John Deere parts, so pretty cool there. When you're buying this, you're buying a quality kit. This is by no means anything cheap. It's some pretty good stuff. So you also do get an instruction manual, of course, on how to install this. We'll be going through that. What else? I don't think there's too much more to talk about. It does give you, see if I can find it. I'll put it somewhere. I'll have to try to find it. It came with a little packet when you get this quick connect. It comes with a little packet of sealant to put in the threads so that it locks it in. Getting these apart to get this fitting in there was very complicated. They put them in there very solid, So I think if you weren't messing with them at all, I don't know that you'd ever have a leak between these fittings. It was very hard to get them out. So good stuff there. I'm gonna get this back onto this bracket as it should be, and then we'll start in with assembling the stuff onto the tractor. We're gonna start this out by working under my favorite place to work on the tractor, underneath. That's definitely sarcasm. So looking at this first picture here, this hanger is supposed to go, there must be like a bolt here, or a hole here on the frame, lower than this bolt next to where the serial number sticker is. And this lever right here is the park brake lever. So naturally, just like anything I ever get into, it can never be easy. So tell me if you can spot the difference. The draft bar hanger is right here. So we're gonna have to hope that we can get it on there. I have the park brake down, so it should be out of the way. Or sorry, it's in the way, but I think the bracket will fit on there nicely like that. It's not where it says to be in the pictures, but we'll see what happens. Make it work, and I'll definitely let auxiliary hydraulics know whether or not it turns out. So we're going to be using 13mm wrench and socket to get these off. Actually, that's what was on there initially, and that's what these are too. So that works out pretty good. I'm going to use a deep well though, but I'm not 100% sure what mechanism this bolt holds down on the opposite side. But I'm just going to do my best to keep that together. Hopefully, it looks like it has some sort of spring on it, so I'm hoping that doesn't give me an issue by loosening this. Pretty tight, and I'm at a very weird angle. All right, so it definitely has to do with spring tension on the brake there, as I can see that moving back as I loosen this. So I may have some adjusting to do later on. And I'm probably in the way. Step 2, we're going to install the second hanger. So it is this guy. We're going to again be using the 13mm tools, and there again, the instructions on this aren't quite right for the newest of tractors. So if you have something like a 748, I'm willing to bet this is probably more like what you're going to see. I know there was a slight frame change up, between the 748 and the 758, and then the corresponding numbers for whatever other model of tractor, whether it be gas, diesel, what have you. So there's supposed to be, like about where this cutout is, a bolt down here per the instructions, and it's looking like this hole is probably where this is going to go. So not a huge difference. It looks like that hole is probably about in the same spot. So I don't think that in the end this is going to be any problem. Not as big a deal as the other one, because this one will at least be in the right spot. The other one, I'm sure it'll be okay, but we'll see. There we are. Our bracket in place. Next step is to locate the SCV. This is very simple. Look for all these colored things. If you have any hydraulics hooked up to it currently, like I do, obviously unhook them. Make sure you relieve pressure first. I don't think we'll need to unhook the bottom two, but the top two is what we're going to be working on. So I will say at this part, there are two different kits. One is a bit more simple, and it's essentially hose kits like this, to where it would just plug into the SCV and then go to the back, and then you'd have your hookups at the back. This one actually ties into these, so you'll still have your two hookups here, and then you'll also have them split and go to the back. That's a newer one from what I can tell on the website, and it looked like the better option to still keep all your functionality for everything up front, and then you're pretty much permanently installing the rear hookup. So of course it is going to be live all the time. You're going to be having flow back there all the time. That's the reason I got that lockout for the top side of it. So moving on, as I said, relieve all pressure from the system, and then I have a drain, or I have a little mixing cup here to catch any fluid, and then also just an absorbent pad. So we're going to use a 7/8 wrench, and just going to take off these fittings. They are on there tight. Might be a good idea to wear gloves. I just hurt my finger pretty bad. Okay, got that fixed up. Let me continue taking this fitting off. Definitely some hydro come out, so you want to try to catch that. Honestly, not as much as I thought, though. And we'll do our other, but this time I'm going to throw on a glove like I probably should have done the first time. Much better. A good bit more out of that side. And of course you're going to retain your fittings. They'll be used again later. I'm going to finish cleaning this up, kind of sopping up as much as I can. I don't know how much more is going to run out in the meantime, but we'll be right back. So I got those fittings off and mostly cleaned up. Our next step is going to be step 5, to install T's onto hydraulic control valve. Hand tighten T's and orient generally as shown in picture. Do not fully tighten at this time. So it comes with 2 of these pretty nice looking T valves. This end that's capped has a rubber O-ring on it. It also has a lock nut on it, or jam nut. So that way we can orient this, and then we'll tighten that down after. So we'll install these on there. I am going to just put a light coat of hydraulic fluid to lubricate that O-ring. I don't want to damage that at all while putting it in. And then we'll just thread it on in there. One thing that's kind of unfortunate that I hope I don't have an issue with my hoses. Find our threads there. This sticks out kind of far. That's a nature of the beast kind of thing. Can't really help it. But hopefully we'll be able to get this on here without any issue. So I don't want to go too much further than that. Boy, I don't know. I feel like that rubber O-ring is like barely touching, and that's not anywhere near where it needs to be. Can we get this around? like so. And repeat for the other. Got the other one on. There is a note later on when you're tightening they call it a compression nut. It says not to over tighten, that the O-ring seal happens long before the actual mechanical seal does. So I probably went a little harder on this one than I needed to. I backed it back off and then spun it on until I started feeling resistance from that O-ring, but didn't get it too tight. It's probably honestly in the same spot, just the fact that I had it that far on now. You know, it made it to where it went back on easier that time. I don't have to try near as hard. Just gonna check this. Don't look like there's any thread damage, so I don't think I hurt anything going that far, so should be all right. I mean, if you're just tightening by hand, I don't think you're going to be over tightening it. So oriented generally in the direction the picture shows. Next is to install adapters onto the side of the tees, hand tighten adapters at this time. So there are two different adapters in the kit. You're going to have a straight one and a bent one. I'm going to put on the bent one first. And of course, I will put a little bit of hydraulic fluid on it. Now that one does fit pretty close to the fender. But once you start tightening it down, it gets clearance. So and that's where we want that. Now to put on the straight one. Like so. So they're pretty much hand tightened. I didn't go crazy on those right now. So there is a note. It may be necessary to back off the elbow compression nut to ensure elbow screws as far in as possible into the T-fitting. There may be a clearance issue with the hood if elbow is not far enough into the T. So of course my hood is down as it is right now. It looks like the one in the picture, the hood may be up. Hard to tell, but we'll move on. So next is to reinstall the OEM couplers onto the end of the T's, hand tightened couplers only at this time. So our black one is going to go back here, green one is going to go up here. So I'm going to go ahead and throw those on. It looks like these O-rings that came on the factory ones may be slightly chewed up, so just make sure to inspect yours. Replace them if you feel needed. Mine look okay, I'm not too worried about it, but I would imagine probably if you have an older tractor, one that's had some years, a number of hours on it, you might need to get some new O-rings. They're not expensive, so. Well, make sure your little cap is back on there in place before you thread your fitting in. I don't think it's going in straight. There we go. And repeat for the green one. And that is what it looks like at this point, now that we have those couplers back on. So everything here, of course, is hand tightened. We need to get the hoses in there next, and then from there we'll start tightening everything up. So the next step is going to be from the rear of the side of the tractor, feed the rear hydraulic hoses forward through the rear hose retainer. So starting at the back, moving up here to the front. I'm gonna set out the hoses. I'll show you how they come and then show you which goes where. So this is the hose as it is packaged. It took me a while looking at this to kind of figure out what was going on, because of course I wasn't installing it, and I just looked at it quick. I was just trying to figure out more so where I was going to put my quarter turn lockout. But if you want to know which hose goes on which side, They have little green zip ties on it there, and that tells you that that goes on the green end of things, so it'll connect to the green coupler. You have a straight fitting here, all the others are angled. You have angled fittings at the rear of the tractor, and of course one side that we put on the rear or on the front was straight, the other was going to be for an angled, obviously the opposite of that. So this is going to be the front of the green side, this is going to be the front of the black side. So like I said, I never knew that. It doesn't necessarily say that in the instructions, so just if you're having trouble figuring it out, that's how it goes. This is the rear of the tractor looking forward. You can kind of see this is like the back of the frame where the 3-point's hooked up. You can see right there is our bracket we put on. So I'm gonna just feed these from back here through there. Take note on your fittings, the ones with the red caps, that's what's going up front. I'm gonna get this done and then we'll be back. You can see I got the hose pulled through that rear retainer. I brought it up under all the linkages here for the pedals and then up through that front retainer. I think that's the way that it's gonna have the least wear on it. You don't want to take it above those pedals, otherwise you could get in the way of the rock shaft that's going to actuate those yokes for the rear draft links. So I would definitely put it underneath. I think the fact that this rear retainer is so far down kind of hints that, hey, it's supposed to go that way, but the instructions aren't the most clear. But this will work. So now we're back up here, and the next step, well, after continuing to move the hoses forward, pull them through that retainer, you want to make sure your hoses aren't twisted anywhere, which they're not. And then step 10 is going to be to ensure hoses are not twisted. Pull the hose forward, connect hoses to adapters previously installed. Hand tighten connections only at this time. And then to note clearance between elbow and hood. So I'm going to get these hooked up. Like so. So the way I have these oriented, this one is kind of angled backwards. Well, sorry, not backwards, but inward. That way there's room for this angle. They are really close there. I don't know if the SCV is any different on older models. It might not be a problem. It looks like they're more straight up in the picture. But then again, it does look like this one might actually be bent back some. Regardless, it goes on in there. Leaving everything loose allows you to kind of move these around to kind of figure out how you want it to fit in there. So I don't think I'll have any problems there. Only thing is, I don't know if I like how this hose is kind of sitting right on top of the retainer here, right on that sharp metal edge. I might have to just stick something on that just to kind of help protect that hose, because I don't know if that would wear through at all. So moving on, we're going to, looks like, move to the back of the tractor. Step 11, from underneath right-hand side of tractor, outside tractor frame, and at the rear of the tractor, locate rear rock shaft mounting bolts or holes. Using existing bolts and nuts or furnished bolts and nuts, mount coupler mounting bracket as pictured. So this is one of those things where I think since my kit originally didn't include the hanger brackets, it didn't come with the hardware for it either. So I think it actually gave me hardware for these two. And I don't think I ever ended up getting, you know, the hardware to add this kit. So if you don't have the 3-point, you should have 4 sets of bolts and nuts inside the kit, not just 2, because you would need 2 for, you know, those mounting brackets. Luckily I have that. Now you can get this kit 2 different ways. You can get it with this style bracket, that'll work, you know, with the 3-point, with the PTO kit, or you can actually get one that will work if you have the click and go. Now I don't have a click and go, I don't intend to get one, so I can't really say what the difference would be or why it won't work. So I don't know, if you have a click and go and you know why it wouldn't work, let me know. I am curious, but I really can't say why it would work. Anyway, to loosen these, this is where that bracket's gonna go. So we're just gonna use 1/2 inch tooling to get in there. Oh, we don't need a wrench. That's a carriage bolt. Probably could have gotten that off in the time that it took me to find my electric screwdriver. But I ain't got time to go that far with the ratchet right now. We'll set our, so they do have a little cutout in here actually, like they did think about it. Go around that bearing. And it looks like it's gonna be a fun day getting the nuts back on, as we'll have to go in there with a wrench somehow. We'll be right back. So here is the rear outlets hooked up. Yours may not look like this if you chose not to go with the quick disconnect, lockout valve. So we're gonna move on. So now we're gonna hook up our hoses. You wanna make sure you have the right ones, hooked up to the right coupler back here. So of course I showed you, go green to green. This one is gonna be the black hose. It says in the instructions to do that one first. So we'll do that one first. You wanna make sure, I have these fittings kind of loose right now. They kind of came loose. So there's 3 different sizes involved here. You're gonna use a 9/16 to be on this portion of the fitting. This end is gonna be 11/16 and this is 3/4. So pull my fitting off there. The hoses are a bit long, so they're gonna kind of droop down a bit, but better to have them a little long than not long enough. So it tells you to put them on there and tighten securely. So that's what it's gonna look like on the tractor. I'm gonna move you out of the way so I can get in here, and I'm gonna get these tightened down. Same deal for the top one, nothing different. So I'm gonna get these on, tightened down, then we'll show you what it looks like. And this is what I have with it all tightened down. So a couple things to note. This lower one, nothing crazy, it's just kind of coming down. Now the fact that I have that extra lockout valve in there, it pushed everything back. And where these rear bolts here, and there's one up here that you can't really see, those bolts that are part of the 3-point hitch, they would contact this metal sleeve on the end of this, the hose on the green side. So I kind of have this angled forward a little bit to be moved out of the way. So that's just something you might want to think about. Otherwise you may end up with, I don't know, these can move. This is just, it has a snap ring on the backside that holds this coupler in. So it can move a little bit. So if that was sitting on that bolt, you may end up with, a little bit of a rattle from vibration and everything. And, it probably wouldn't do any damage, but if anything, it would just be a bit annoying. So, and then my lockout valve, it's at a weird angle. I'm not worried about it though. It's kind of out of the way when it's in line like that, and even flipped up, it's not really in the way too much. It works, it has clearance to move, so not worried about it. Let's see what's next. We're gonna go back up to the front, so we'll meet you up there. And now that we're back up front, step 12, using 7/8 open end wrench or equivalent and 1 1/16 inch open end wrench or equivalent, securely tighten compression nuts on both T's. So both sides. As I mentioned earlier, I kind of have mine at kind of some angles. I'm gonna leave it that way. I have a little bit of clearance between those fittings. They're not rubbing or anything. So I don't have a 1 1/16 on hand, so I'm just going to use an adjustable. And it says, note, the O-ring fitting only needs to be tightened enough to maintain mechanical integrity of the assembly. The O-ring seal occurs long before mechanical integrity is ensured. Don't over tighten. So that's what I was kind of talking about earlier. But essentially they're wanting you to double wrench this. So one wrench on the fitting, one wrench on that nut. And they are tight. Next, step 13, securely tighten both OEM couplers using method described in previous step. So, same thing there. Okay, step 14, using 7/8 open end wrench or equivalent and 3/4 open end wrench or equivalent, tighten elbow adapter securely. Note, this O-ring fitting only needs to be tightened enough to maintain mechanical integrity of the assembly. The O-ring seal occurs, yada yada yada, same thing, don't over tighten. That's step 14. Step 15, we're going to do the same exact thing on the straight fitting. And that's 15. Step 16, using 11/16 open end wrench or equivalent, tighten hose end securely. So that's going to be our hose end here, and this one, yep, we'll be doing this one too. I know last time I had a wrench on that, I didn't realize that was still loose. So 16 and 17, we're, just gonna be doing both of these. I'm not gonna read the other one. And there we have it. That's the last step. Yeah, it looks so cool. Tighten those fittings. Now all the instructions say, go back, be certain all fittings are securely tightened at this time. Start tractor engine and look for leaks. Use a piece of cardboard to wipe along the hydraulic parts while checking for leaks. It says, do not use bare hands to check for leaks while there is fluid pressure in the system. Hydraulic fluid injection through the skin is deadly. So it also says the hydraulic system self-purging. So you don't need to worry about doing anything to get air out of the system. It just says to attach a hydraulic implement and cycle both circuits fully from start to stop at least 3 times. So I currently don't have my top link yet. I guess if I wanted, I could take the plow off, but I don't know that I want to do that just to check this. I don't know. I'll probably just turn it on, cycle it a few times to get the system filled with fluid, and then of course check for leaks. But now I'm just going to wipe everything down in this whole SCV area because it's a little bit of a mess just from messing with that fluid. One thing I forgot to mention, this kit, being that it pushes these couplers out kind of far, it put a lot of stress on the green and black hoses here. So I took them out of the hanger there, and I just have it secured with 2 Velcro straps. And then I have one back here just kind of holding the whole bunch together. I don't think it's going to give me a problem with the wheel turning. We'll see what happens. I might have to figure out something different or tie it up tighter. I just don't like having a lot of stress on these fittings and the couplers. I don't want any risk of it, leaking with them being, stressed out at all. So, yeah, that's just kind of my fix for now. Next time I use it, I'll see if I have an issue there. If I do, I can tie them back up, but I think it'll be all right. And that is the install of the Auxiliary Hydraulics Deluxe Live Rear Hydraulic Kit. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you had any questions or anything, or wanted to see some information about it, wanted to see how it was installed, hopefully this did it for you. Overall, it was an easy install. Anytime you're working with hydraulic fittings like this, it can get a little bit tedious having to tighten all of them, and certain ones you got to tighten right away, certain ones you got to leave loose. It just depends. After I fired this up, well, I cleaned it up first to make sure there wasn't any residual hydro from when I took those couplers off. But I cleaned it up, started the thing up, and I ended up with one leak. I had a leak at the one elbow fitting here up top, the one coming off one of the hoses. Wasn't that big a deal. I just wiped the fluid away, tightened it a bit more, and it was good to go so far. So that's just something I'll keep an eye on. You know, if you have this kit, keep an eye on it, you know, at least until you use it a number of times and it looks good, then you're probably fine. But yeah, overall, great kit, great quality, super impressed with the quality. The bolts that come with it, grade 8 bolts, you know, they're not just giving you any kind of like cheap, you know, overseas stuff. Like, this kit is made, you know, well, at least assembled together in Florida. So, you know, US made, so good company. I'm impressed with the kit, and I can't wait to actually use it when I get that top link. So with that, if you have any questions or anything, of course, feel free to contact me. But other than that, have a good one.